Welcome to the Riding in the Weeds podcast, where we tackle life's inevitable challenges, from navigating mountain bike trails to overcoming business hurdles and forging deeper connections with pets and people. It's easy to find yourself tangled in the weeds, but we're here to help with insights and strategies that'll get you out of the weeds. Our goal is to boost your performance in both sports and everyday life by sharing essential skills that we've learned along the way. Through tales of our entrepreneurship journey, thrilling biking adventures, and fostering meaningful relationships, your hosts, Natasha Lucky and Jenny Brandon, will guide you on a journey that's not only enjoyable, but also inspiring. Join us to gain confidence that you need to navigate the trails of life. Welcome to our latest episode of Riding in the Weeds. Today, we are going to talk about perception, FOMO, and how seeing things through our lenses actually can really get you stuck in the weeds when you forget that there is more going on than what meets the eye. This episode is for you if you find yourself comparing yourself to others, if you find yourself looking around and forgetting that you're having your experience and everybody else around you is having an experience too. And when we're judging ourselves against a perception of our reality, we're never going to rate, right? We're always going to feel less than. We're always going to feel like we're not quite having the experience that we're supposed to have. So what do we do about that? And that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to dig into the idea of perception. We're going to dig into where it meets us in life. And we're going to talk about ways that we can move through it. So let's get started. Thank you for being here. We got Jenny. How's Jenny doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Yeah. Beautiful sunny day. Yeah, life is good.
Well, I'm going to start with the question because it all just happened, and that's what sparked this whole conversation is, did you get to see the aurora?
I did get to see the aurora.
I'm so jealous because I didn't, because it was cloudy here.
So, yeah, exactly. Some people didn't get the memo. Some people didn't have clear skies. Some people just legitimately did not have it happen where they were. My mom was out. She was watching for it, and she just didn't see it. So then the next day comes, and you open Facebook.
And I have friends in Atlanta who got to see it, and I didn't. It's not fair.
And it's not dissimilar to the solar eclipse that happened a few weeks back as well. Same thing, right? Did you buy the glasses? Well, I didn't because I was too cheap. And so even though I was sitting in Baja, Mexico, where we got to see 98% of it, I spent the entire time wondering if I wasn't having the same experience as the people I could see down on the beach that had the fancy glasses. And did I make a mistake? And did I miss out? But let's get back to the aurora. At 10 o'clock, I said to Ian, let's drive up. Maybe it's starting and we're missing it. Even though we're in the middle of nowhere, we've got pretty big sky, but I can't see all the sky. So maybe we're missing it. And he was reluctant. We drove up the road and we got to a spot and he's like, there's people everywhere. I don't want to be part of this. I don't want to do this with other people. And so we sat there for a while. Nothing happened. And then so we went back to where we were. And about 10 minutes after we got back, it happened. And the sky was pretty spectacular. And then I took a photo through my camera and was like, that's way cooler than what I am seeing with my naked eye. And then all I could think was tomorrow everyone's going to post these photos on Facebook because everyone who has an iPhone 11 is going to have the exact same photo as I have. And then as Ian said, there's a local photographer around here. Ashley's photos are going to be next level. And she is going to have seen something completely different through her camera than what we're seeing right now. And it really highlights that point that, A, you didn't see it, so all you know is that you missed out on seeing those photos.
Yeah.
And I sat there for probably over an hour, and the last 20 minutes of it was like, well, maybe if I sit here for long enough, the sky will actually look like the photo.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And I didn't want to go to bed because it was very spectacular. But I also was making sure that I fully had the experience. Not because I needed more. My cup was full. But because I wanted to make sure when I looked at social media in the morning that I was 100% certain that I had the same experience as everyone else and that I didn't miss out. And part of that is because I have been seeing these photos because I'll either go to bed and not take the effort to drive up the road to see the northern lights when they say it's happening, or I'm in Mexico and the northern lights happen in winter here and I'm like, oh, I wish I'd seen that. And I just wanted to make sure I didn't have that feeling. So what is going on there?
It's been interesting to observe all of this. When we started catching up with each other, when we hopped on the call together, I had to laugh because the idea of perception came up, and the fact that what we perceive is often not the whole story or not the bigger picture or isn't actually true necessarily. And it's not to say that the photographs of the aurora aren't true, because they are, but that is the perception of the camera versus what our naked eye can see. And those are two different things. Cameras are made to mimic what our eyes see, but they aren't exactly accurate. And in many ways, obviously, they are better. A couple years ago, I learned a fact that sort of stunned me, and that is that horses cannot see rainbows. And I was exceptionally disappointed when I learned this, which is sort of oddly hilarious. Like, why does that even matter that horses can't see rainbows? But again, it's just their eyes are different than ours and they perceive color in a different way. So they cannot see the wavelengths of light in the sky that produce a rainbow. It's just the way it is. And I think this is really a great sort of metaphor for exploring what happens to us all the time. Yeah. Because we tend to go through life blissfully unaware that, number one, what we are seeing may not be what other people are seeing. And number two, that frequently what we may be seeing may not even be the whole story. And that there may be a lot more going on than what we're even aware of. And it may be useful or it may not. I mean, the fact that horses can't see rainbows is really neither here nor there. It doesn't change anything for them, and it's not helpful or unhelpful to them. So it doesn't even really matter, but it's just something that they aren't unable to perceive.
And because they don't know that they can't see rainbows, they don't have social media, they're not aware that they're missing out on anything. Yeah. It doesn't actually affect, as you say, it doesn't affect them. And I think the thing is with us as human beings is because we are so aware of everybody's highlight reel and everything that we can see from the outside that is going on for other people, we then create a perception.
Yeah. Well, and it's sort of hilarious when you look at it, in light of the aurora, pardon the pun, because what's coming out on social media is the highlight reel, right? And 100%. Yet no one actually saw it the way the photographs look. And that is what social media is. It purely is the highlight reel. Social media is literally comprised of just pictures of everybody's aurora that really aren't necessarily completely true. It's a moment in time in their life, and most people are not going to share the worst parts of it. Yes, there are a lot of people that are very candid, but even with the people that are candid, it is still a curated look at their life. And it is still your perception of the curated look at their life. And so our experiences are going to color the way we see things and the way we view things. Our life experience is going to reveal whatever we see in a situation. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. In many ways, that can often give some of us the skills of empathy and compassion for other people, and or awareness about certain issues because we have lived through experiences that lend us to wanting to care about certain causes. It's not a bad thing, but it also means that sometimes we can have some pretty big blind spots in our awareness of what's happening around us because of that.
So true. It's interesting because when you live in a camper, every Instagram reel, anything I see that is like pictures of people living in their van life, doing their van life in whatever way they're doing it. There's this one account that I follow, and they're in a big school bus, and her school bus is always immaculate, like absolutely stunningly immaculate. She has 2 dogs, and yeah, her bus is bigger than my bus, and it's pretty awesome. They put $40,000 into making the inside of this bus absolutely spectacular. It's a work of art. However, unless she spends 50% of her time cleaning that bus, because her dogs shed. I have a dog that doesn't shed, and well, he sheds dirt all over. I changed my sheets yesterday, and then I slept in dirt. I'm not sure how that happened because my sheets were literally clean, and then 5 minutes later I was sleeping very well exfoliated. And I think about it sometimes, like we clean the camper up and it looks really good, and I'm like, oh, I should take a photo of this. I'm like, but I forgot to take a photo of the bomb that it was. I mean, really, or like I could easily solve that by taking a photo and then 20 minutes later taking another photo, because like there is no way. And you see these people with their white fluffy blankets and their tinkle lights and all of the things, and you're like, you have a special spot in your van where you keep your white fluffy blanket, and when you go to do a photo shoot it comes out and then you put it back because it's just not reality. But there are a lot of people out there that believe that that's what it looks like, because how many people actually show the destruction? I watched one reel one time and I was so impressed by it because she was like, and the other side. And she opens up the door of her like camper and literally half of their stuff just falls out. And, and you know, awesome. It was so good because it was just the reality of actually what living in a van looks like, because you just can't, I mean, living in a house. I just turned up at my friend's house. She left it beautifully clean, and within 5 minutes, there's stuff everywhere because I put my things everywhere. And that's the reality of life. But we don't see it unless we're in it. And, you know, whether you're on a fitness journey and you're losing weight, you don't know how hard it is to stay on whatever program it is you're on unless you're on that program. You don't know how hard it is to do all of those exercises and get to where you need to be and fight through the exhaustion and balance and take naps and rest. And you don't know what's needed unless you're actually in it. But if you're watching somebody lose 100 pounds and they're not showing the full side of their journey, because I mean, really, we don't want to see the day-to-day of everything. But unless you're in it, you do not know what's going on behind the scenes. It's like one of those amazing plays where they manage to, on a stage, portray all this stuff. It's just a facade.
Yeah. And I think what's funny is that as humans, so often when we see someone who's fit, or we see someone who is something we aspire to be, we assume they have an easier time than we do. But yet the flip side of that is that frequently we will assume that someone else has it harder than we do when we're struggling with something. Oh, it can't possibly be that bad for me. I'm making this up. I'm telling stories. It's not that bad. And so we assume that everyone else has a harder time, and so we shouldn't be complaining or we shouldn't be struggling. So we like beat ourselves up about stuff, and yet assume too that the other person has it easier than us, and that we're struggling harder and it's harder for me and I'm not good enough. And we tell ourselves these stories all the time, and 90% of the time they're really not true. And we just don't know. We don't know how hard they have it. We don't know how hard a certain person works to achieve the results they achieve, and we may not want to experience what they have to go through in order to get those results. But thinking that they have it easier, or thinking that they can do something that it's not difficult, that's not always right. And it does them a disservice. It does ourselves a disservice to create that story in our head about it. We don't know. We have no idea. All we know is what's here and now. And that's the only thing we can really count on. And it's not helpful to write those stories. But we do it all the time. We don't even realize we're doing it.
Yeah, that's a solid point. I kind of feel like you should repeat it. And a lot of the time, we would never trade with the person that we're looking at going, wow, I want what you've got. But if you'd had to walk in their shoes to get there, you might actually change your mind. Because you're absolutely right. We look at people who have what we want and think that they got there easier. And obviously they had some magic something that enabled them to get there. And absolutely, when we're struggling, we look at other people and think, oh, well, they're having a harder time than I am. I don't get to feel bad about what's going on for me. And it's such a dichotomy that we have in our society where you're exactly right. When people have what we want, we think they did something easier. But 99.9% of the time, you would not have wanted to trade places with them to get to where they are. You look at Taylor Swift, you know, where she is right now, amazing. How cool is that? But we don't know what's behind the scenes. Well, we do because she sings a lot about it. But at the same time, we don't know. And all the stuff that's coming out about Britney Spears and Justin Timberlake and all of the people that got to be stars in one way or another, a lot of the time, there was a lot of struggle and a lot of not fun stuff behind it. And then on the flip side, those that didn't have a struggle, well, they had a struggle, but it was a curated struggle because they chose. Like Jim Carrey's story is pretty insane and very, very cool. Those are the ones that we really want to look up to and go, okay, how do I replicate what you did? How do I look at what you did to get to where you got to and follow those strategies? I think that's what brings us back into the moment. Instead of comparing, instead of just looking through a pair of glasses and not wanting to pull back the curtain, as soon as we pull back the curtain, we then get to choose. Well, that's not a path I want to follow, but that path, that's inspiring. And if we're going to bring this round to the animals and the bikes, it's the same thing with biking, right? Like you can look at somebody and go, oh, they're obviously just born athletes. And here is the honest truth. Nobody was born athletic. Like, yeah, some people are more athletic than others, but anyone can become an athlete. It is just about learning the steps that it takes in order to be athletic. And if you can be good in one area, you just then replicate that and you can be good in many different sports. I realized this at one point because this is not my reality, but I realized that people were looking at me thinking that I was just naturally athletic. Well, no, I'm not naturally athletic. I'm terrible at ball sports, but I have worked to work on my mindset. I've worked on my skills. I've worked on being present with where I am. And I just apply that to different things that I do, which enables me to pick things up fairly quickly because I know I just translate those skills. And it's the same thing with people who are really good in business. You know, they translate those skills. People that are really good parents are probably really good with animals because they translate the skills.
Yeah. And I think the one thing that we get caught in a trap where we minimize our own experience and look at someone else as that they had it easier, or we'll do the opposite and say that, well, they have it harder than I do, so I need to discount my own feelings about something. And just because someone else has struggled through something else in a bigger way or a different way than you have doesn't minimize your own struggle. So even if you are an appearing athletic person, you still have had to put in time and energy to work for something. And some of the people that have achieved some of the greatest things were cut from sports teams or were told they would never make it. It's actually been shown that in American Idol, the person that receives number 2 actually has a greater level of success in the long term than the person who was number 1. And I think that that is very revealing, because when you are told you can't do this or you're not good enough, frequently that is what lights the fire under us and gets us to push just a little bit harder to achieve a goal. But the perception of that from the outside may not look like it's as hard as it really was from the inside. And I think that's the biggest key takeaway, is if we can just remember that our perception is not necessarily real. It's not necessarily the end of the story. It's not necessarily the whole story of whatever we're looking at. And I think this really shows up with our animals, because how I perceive my animals is not their lived experience. Their lived experience is really different because they're an animal. They're my cat or the dog or the horse. Their perception of the world is very different from our own. And sometimes that shows up in sessions by how they describe something or how they explain a certain situation or a certain thing. Or even what they refer to as certain things is like, oh, well, that makes sense because that's how they see the world. And I think the more we can remember that everyone sees the world differently, no matter what, it's a combination of their experience, their perception, their life, the place they are in their life. We all know that when we're not feeling well and when we're depressed, it's so much harder to find the good things in the world. And when you know that, you can begin to work on telling your brain, hey, brain, that's not the whole picture. There's other things going on here. But it takes a conscious effort. It takes being aware that that's not the whole story or the whole picture in order to make sure that we're reminding ourselves of that and that we stay present with that as a possibility. We've talked about it like looking at a radar for weather. You're only seeing what's on the radar at the moment, but there's a whole map that's outside that image of the radar that you're looking at that is available, that is influencing what's in the radar, that's a part of the bigger picture that you just can't see.
Well, really, that's a great example, because when you don't understand, it's like the possibility of precipitation, pop. So what we as laymen think that means is that there's a 10% chance that it's going to rain here today. That's actually not true. It's that 10% of the area that we are forecasting for is going to get rain today. So if you're in that 10%, it might rain all day. It doesn't mean that there's a 10% chance it's going to rain. It means that if you're in the wrong spot or the right spot, depending on how you want to look at it, you're going to get all of the rain. And you're going to be like, hold on a second, it only said we were going to get 10% rain. Yeah, no. You just happen to be in the 10% on the map that bit of weather sat on. And those two stories are completely different. Because if you're looking at it like, oh, you know, there's a 10% chance it's going to rain today, I'm good. I don't need to take my raincoat. But actually, you probably should have. And when the snow comes, right, it's like, oh, there's a 80% chance it's going to snow. Well, we were in the 20%. We didn't get snow. Like, how did that happen when there was an 80% chance, right? It's all in the understanding. And it is really important that the way our brain works is it filters things, because otherwise we'd go crazy. There is a syndrome that people don't have all of the filters in their brain. And so they hear all the noises. They see all of the light. They actually can't filter the amount of noises that are going on right now in our environment that we cannot hear because it's not important for us to hear those. So our brain just filters them out. And that is exactly what our perception is. It's there to stop us from going crazy. And it's not that we need to open ourselves up so we can hear all the noises, because that would make us go crazy. But we need to be aware that every single person is having their own experience. And that no matter how long you sat and looked at the sky or where you were in the world, you saw the same sky. You saw the same lights. And your iPhone, if you had an iPhone 11, it took the same photos. And if you had an incredibly good camera and you were in Iceland, you got fantastic pictures. And if you're a photographer and you knew how to tweak those things and you went to the right locations, you got incredible photos, and you will be able to sell those photos. And everybody who wasn't watching is going to think that they missed out on the most incredible thing in the world. And everyone who was watching is going to think that there was something wrong with their eyes. However, that's our story. And so all we have to do is open ourselves up a little bit and be aware that this is just our perception. Back to the sky. I was not going to miss it. Partly because I wanted to see it, and partly because I did not want to see what was on Facebook the next morning and feel like I missed out. I wanted to make sure I knew what actually happened. So I made the effort of staying up late and seeing it for both of those reasons. And I will be completely honest about that. And that's the same when we look at somebody who is achieving great things. It's like, okay, that's my ideal. So I'm going to start to set my goals in order to achieve that. And then what I've learned from this book I'm reading is then we measure our progress. We don't measure our results on the ideal. We don't measure the experience we had sitting out watching the stars, enjoying the light show on the most amazing photo we saw on Facebook. We measure it against the progress that we had. So we measure it against the experience that we had and what we actually saw. And the fact that I knew the moment I took a photo with my phone that I was not seeing the same thing. And so having that ability to know what your ideal is and then measure your progress, that actually gives you empathy and starts to allow you to see the real picture, because you are not the only one that is making that progress. And if you're measuring your progress versus measuring up against the ideal, if you're measuring up against the ideal, you're always going to come up short. Whereas if you're measuring up against the progress, like I'm pretty proud of myself that I stayed up for long enough to see it. Because I really wanted to go to bed. I was really tired.
Yeah, that's probably the other reason I didn't get to see anything, because we tend to go to bed pretty early. But in conjunction with this, I think the piece that is also important to remember is not only is your perception coloring how you're viewing the outside world, but your perception is coloring how you view yourself. And I think many times we tend to beat ourselves up or feel like we're not doing good enough, we're not being enough, when we are looking at the highlight reel for someone else, or when we are looking at what the outcome of someone else's effort that we're attempting to measure ourselves against. And it's not fair to ourselves at that point. We are looking at the outside world from our own lens. And frequently that means we can't see ourselves that clearly either. And we don't realize how much progress we've made. We don't realize how much we've changed, usually for the better, hopefully for the better, but we don't see it. And we were kind of laughing before, talking about looking back at pictures of yourself and how many people I have heard complain, gee, I wish I was as thin as I was back then when I thought I was fat. Yeah. And I have heard this statement from so many people over the years. And I've even looked at myself and thought that about the way my skin looked, or all sorts of different things. And we don't know where we're going in the future, but we do know where we've been in the past. And when we're not in the present moment, when we're busy wishing we were something else, we can't even appreciate where we are. And our perception gets really scrambled up. And most of us are doing a heck of a lot better than we think we are. But it's that internal perception that we continue to beat ourselves up over the results that we think we should have, that we don't, when it's not even able to be achieved the way that our brain is telling us it could be anyway.
It's so true. I was riding home from work the other day, and I was with my other coach, and we're riding down the hill, and I kind of say goodbye to him, and I was like, oh, thank you so much, that was amazing. And as I rode away, I was like, I'm the boss. Like, this is actually my company. And I took a moment, and I was on my way to coach training where 10 people showed up, and I wasn't running coach training. Somebody else was. And I was like, I'm the boss. I get to show up and participate in coach training that I'm not running because I have built a team and I have this coach who's going to run this for me. And everybody is getting to do this because of me. And yet I forget that I'm not just one of the other coaches, but I'm the reason why those 9 kids got to go biking and learn skills. I'm the reason why my other coach got to get paid to go biking with those 9 kids. And it is so easy for me to get stuck in, we don't have enough bookings. I haven't done the website good enough. I haven't built this up. I haven't done that. I should have. I could have. I wish I had have. And be falling short because I'm not hitting the ideal that I want to hit. When I have a team of 10 people that are completely invested in my vision, in my mission, and without me, in that particular moment, they would not be there. And my brain wants to go to, yeah, but somebody else probably would have done it. For the last 15 years in my town of 3,000 people, kids have been able to go biking after school and learn skills. That doesn't happen in many other places in the world. And it happens because of me. And unless I stand here and say that, all I think is, I could do better. I'm failing. I'm not good enough because I'm not meeting my ideal. But by doing that, I'm also not experiencing the amazingness that I've created. And that is what each and every one of us do on a daily basis.
Yeah. It's so easy to get caught up in that, to caught up in everything that's not happening the way you want it to, that isn't going like you think it should be, or how you aren't XYZ, whether that's your weight or your fitness or your training or your biking or with your pets or whatever. It's a lot easier for me to get focused on all the annoying stuff that my cats are doing than the things that are fun that I like doing with them, or the ways that they're being awesome and cute and playful and super loving with me. It's just a human nature to get stuck on that negative side of things. But that's our perception of the moment, but that doesn't mean that it's 100% real. Like, yeah, you can get stuck perceiving that you're failing and that you're not doing good enough, or you can get into the mode of perceiving all of the amazing things that you're doing in your business and the ways that you're serving people and supporting people and bringing fun to people. And I think that's the key, is we have to make that choice. And we have to have that awareness that what we perceive is not reality. It's not the whole story. And then think from that place and give ourselves some credit, give people around us some credit. And that's the way that life gets easier when you're able to do it that way.
Yeah, and I think the same thing with biking, right? It's like you can look at somebody who is doing things that you wish you could do on a bike, and you set them as an ideal. And then you look at where you started, and you go, wow, look at the progress I've made. Exactly as you just said. In every space in our life, in every stage in our life, that is the truth. That our perception, the reality, and how we want to actually be present with where we're at right now is what dictates the level of happiness we get to have in any given moment.
Yeah. Yeah. That sums it up super well. I love it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Would love to hear if you got photos of the sky the other night, please post them. Let us know what your experience was. You can find us on ridingintheweeds.com. We are on Instagram and we are on Facebook. I am Natasha Lockie. I am a life and mountain bike performance coach. I am here to help you have more fun on your bike and to also have more fun in your life. If you're really wanting to take your challenges and experiences and transform the life that you're having right now, that is also what I'm here for. So I am findable on Instagram at Betty Gohard and also on Facebook and LinkedIn at Natasha Lockie. How about you, Jenny?
Yeah, I'm Jenny Brandon. I'm an animal communicator and energy healer for animals and their people too. And I'm going to be able to support you if you are struggling with situations with your pets, whether those are behavior challenges or emotional issues or working through household stuff. So if you are having any issues, let me know, and I would love to connect with you and your pet. You can find me on soulpetconnections.com and on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube under the same handle. So thank you so very much for joining us here today. We appreciate all of you and hope that you have enjoyed this episode. And you can find us on the web at ridingintheweeds.com. We would appreciate it if you would leave likes, comments, reviews, and shares, especially if you're on Apple. That is very helpful. And let us know if you have any ideas for the show for the future. We are happy to explore. So look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.